gosh, it feels like it's been forever since I last said this, but what is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolve video. Alright soldiers, so close your eyes and picture this. So there I was minding my own black ass business, you know, dealing with everything that I've been dealing with the past couple of weeks. I'm sorry for the absence of content that I haven't done, but there was minding my own black ass business, and then I see that there's a Shadowverse Evolve important updates that is talking about the combined booster sets. And after Grand Finals, I think Shadowverse Evolve has definitely taken like a huge halt. I think everyone's playing casual decks, or if they're still playing the competitive decks and they're really still playing for like locals to get prizing, or they're really just playing their favorite deck right now. But I think Shadowverse Evolve after World's Grand Finals is not per se in a weird space, but definitely people are testing out different decks and they're really concerned about what was happening with that accelerated schedule. And well, if you didn't watch my last video, I definitely talked about the accelerated schedule and what they needed to do. And what they're going to be doing is really going to be helping out, because I did give a little pre-reading to this, but we will be going over it together. But briefly, before we get into it, I want to give everybody an update that, you know, things have just been very crazy with life for this past recent couple of weeks. So I'm sorry that I have not been posting as much. I will try my best to post a whole bunch this week, actually. I plan on scrunching in a whole bunch of these casual deck videos that people have not really been looking at, or if they've been looking at, then they definitely need to shed some light on it, because our brother Spartacus is definitely a deck that is something that people should be trying out. But of course, beyond that, let's go ahead and get into the video. And alright soldiers, here we are on the website, and they have important news for us for these combined booster sets. Alright, so let's start reading this and breaking this down. So, important updates on combined booster sets. So, we recently announced that we're working to narrow the gap with the Japanese edition to 6 months starting from the 12th booster set. To make this possible, booster sets 12 and 13 as well as 14 and 15 will be combined. Well, before we get into the meat and bones of this update here, I do want to say I'm glad they now know that we had a problem with everything. That I'm going to be honest, coming from my perspective, I saw a whole bunch of content creators that I have never seen like talk or even play Shadowverse Evolve talk about this combined booster set. So I think something like this, even though it seems like a negative sort of light, I'm glad that it's bringing other people to Shadowverse Evolve. Because like when they say something crazy like this and they're like, oh, well, you know, I have an opinion on this and I have an opinion. Yo, people came out of the woodworks. Like I saw VTubers like talking about this and I was like, yo, VTubers actually play this game? Like I just didn't know who all played this game. So I'm glad that everybody was able to really give out their opinions and then have some feedback for Bushiroad and, you know, the Shadowverse Evolve crew and everything. So I'm really excited to see the changes here. Well, if you have fallen off of the face of the earth and you don't really know what's going on here, let me explain it to you in a little light sense. Alright, to fill anyone in before we get into the huge meat and bones of this, I want to let everyone know that sets 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 don't know 100% all the cards are going to be. I try when I do my reveals to make sure I don't know as many cards as I can so I can give a full review of them. But how they were going to set out this schedule was going to be very concerning. So not only with the last booster set with set 9, we had like a bit of like combined little archetypes there with the academics and the Dragonic Duelists adding their legendaries and stuff to the mix to that set. We did have a huge legendary problem. People were getting cases and they weren't getting playsets of everything. So it's like, okay, what's the point of getting a case if I'm not gonna get a playset of everything? Like, be serious. So definitely the ratios was definitely a problem, but on top of that, with sets 12 and 13, they're only gonna be coming out a month apart. So definitely being able to explore an entire meta with both sets and figuring out which deck is better. You can probably do that in 30 days, you know, who's to know, but that is not very much time to explore meta. So it's like, you know, if sets 12 and 13 are coming out in July, might as well just wait until August to get sets 14 and 15 because those decks are going to be better. And then with that, on top of that, we have Uma, I think that comes out right after sets 14 and 15, if I remember correctly. And then Uma is definitely just going to take over the meta at that point. So I think I highlighted those issues pretty wellly, especially like let me know in the comments if I definitely missed something. But definitely the ratios and definitely the time of frame that we're going to be having to be playing these sets. Of course, if you want your cards, you know, get your cards the best way that you can. But seeing this post really does let us know that they're listening to our voices. So I'm very excited to read the rest of this update. All right, so getting into this next section here. So since the announcement, we received a large amount of feedback from the community. A major concern was that pulling cards of certain rarities would be more difficult due to the number of card types in the combined sets. We would like to take this opportunity to reassure everyone that we are aware of these concerns and took the necessary steps to alleviate this. Appearance rates will be adjusted to accommodate the large number of card types in the combined sets, ensuring players have a fair chance to obtain key cards. High rarity cards such as legendary cards will appear at a higher rate than regular booster sets. Alright, so one thing I really enjoy about this first sentence is we've received a large amount of feedback from the community. I want to thank everybody that filled out that Google Forms. I want to thank everybody that made videos voicing their concern, whatever the word is, I'm sorry. But I just want to thank everybody and take the time to realize that I love this game. I love the physical card game. I didn't really play the CCG too much. I plan on playing Worlds Beyond, but I'm very scared on what that might be because I really enjoy physical card games. And I believe that Shadowverse Evolved can go very far, just like it does in JP. We just need to stop being the new kid on the block. We need to be around for a little bit, because every time I make a video, and I know I've said it in the last 3 videos I've been making, is, hey, you know, I'm new to Shadowverse. What do I need? What do I need to do? What can I grab? What is worth? So I try my best to answer any questions that come across in my videos, and if I haven't answered you, then please feel free to yap in my comments to this video if I haven't answered you, because I try my best to answer everybody. But it really does put a huge smile on my face when everybody as a community voices their, concern, their displeasure in whatever moves they are making, because when I saw that for Worlds Finals, I was like, okay, so like I just sat there and I was watching ads. I was just like, what? So like, you mean to tell me we have combined sets and they're going to be coming 1 month after another? So hopefully they're not just going to be fixing the rarities, but definitely spacing out these sets, because if they gave us like a month and a half to really explore sets 12 and 13 and then sets 14 and 15, I think we can really, do something different here in the English version of Shadowverse Evolved. But yeah, just to close things out on this section here, it seems like they're definitely going to be accommodating to these rarity pulls and whatnot, so you won't have the problem that we have in set 9 where people were getting cases and they're like, okay, well, I need to buy 1 Vania or I need to buy 1 Sarajwin. Like, I just, I need 3 of these cards and I only have 2 of them, or maybe I have 1 of them and I need to pick up 2. And that's ridiculous if I bought a case. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this next section here though. Alright, so we would also like to reassure our players that we took a gradual approach to the schedule so players can adapt to a comfortable pace. The release gap between booster sets will remain largely consistent, with new booster sets released at intervals of approximately 2 months. Additional products such as special sets and crossover sets will be released in between booster sets. Alright, so I don't know if I'm exactly reading this wrong, but it does look like we're going to be getting a decent gap when we get these sets out. So, of course, when sets 12 and 13 come out, we're going to have our little special crossover sets or our special sets in between, which is fine because most of those decks either can provide like either maybe a 1 or 2 card upgrade for certain decks, but those crossover sets really just go into itself. Like Uma, you just have a whole entire Uma deck. You put all those cards together into one Uma deck and you have a Uma deck, and it's just very strong. Just like it was for Idolmaster Cinderella Girls. We had the Passion, we had the Cute, and we had the Cool. And those decks were very fun, and they really do belong to the Idolmaster identity. And there are a couple cards that go into other crafts, like maybe like the Mio Honda or Ren Shibuya for swordcraft and stuff like that, just as like an example, of course. But having those things in between definitely will give the game some more flavor, of course. But man, 2 months. I mean, approximately, I don't know how exactly approximately is going to be, but 60 days to figure out a meta of 2 sets definitely gives us some time, so I'm very glad on that. Alright, I'm so sorry for being a yapaholic. I forgot we have a little bit of section here, so let's go ahead and close it off. Okay, with the shorter gap, we hope players will be able to enjoy new cards and strategies earlier, which will make the Shadowverse Evolved experience more engaging. We are striving to make Shadowverse Evolved better and would like to thank the community for their incredible support in the past 2 years. We look forward to your continued support on the road ahead. Well, do want to give everybody on the team there a big thank you, because I think everybody is letting out a relief sigh, because I felt like this game was going to go down the drain, because I'm not going to lie to you, as much as I love making content for this game, I think this is a lot of people's secondary game. I know this is my majority game because I make the content for it and everything, but for a lot of people, this is people's secondary game because one of the leading factors of what I believe in this game is that this game is very affordable. It's not expensive decks like others and maybe like Vanguard. And coming from Dragon Ball Super, where I have to get promos to make my deck at full power, I think having all the cards that you need in just a regular set really does appease to me. So I really like how I'm able to pick up an entire Runecraft deck from just, you know, maybe like set 10 itself. I can have an entire Runecraft deck and maybe some older cards can help with the newer deck and everything, but I don't need any promos to really make my deck a whole lot better. And of course, I know that's from personal experience, but, you know, to really drive my point is Shadowverse Evolve is a lot of people's secondary game. Like, more people are more invested in either Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, or any of those other bigger name card games and stuff like that. But we're really the new kid on the block. We're still the niche game, and that's okay, because we have to start somewhere. But as time continues to flow, I think the Shadowverse Evolve pool gets a whole lot bigger, and our Shadowverse Soldier nation just grows. And I'm very excited for where this game is going to go. I hope they do release a new picture of this accelerated schedule to really kind of clear up what they were talking about in this third section about the release gap being like largely consistent. Really kind of lost on how that feels. If you guys could kind of explain that in comments, you know, I would appreciate it. But I think, you know, now we're going to have like a little bit of a bigger gap. That's what I got from that section. If that's not what it is, then please let me know. So I'm not looking up here like an idiot. But yeah, I honestly didn't think I was going to be talking about the initial schedule. So I'm glad I was able to. This entire week, I just really planned on not doing anything until set 10 got a little bit closer so I can do the reveals for you all. But seeing this, I just couldn't help not to make a video because, you know, I've been out of the game for a little bit and I'm finally back home. So I was like, you know what, this is the perfect thing to talk about because everybody has been talking about this. But yeah, I think the outlook is very good. It looks like we're going to have a very big voice in this game since we are a bit of the smaller nicher kind of games, which I'm very excited for. So I know there's going to be complaints in every shape or form, whatever we do, whatever transition that they make. Every decision that goes on in the office and we finally get it here in the West or anywhere else, someone's gonna have a problem with something. Now, when our whole entire community has a problem with something, I'm glad that they finally get on top of it and they realize. Because with that Google Forms, you know, it was so big of a problem that we had to make a Google Docs to fix something. So that shows you that we really had a big issue with what you guys were planning. So I do want to give a huge shout out to Code who made the Google Forms. I just did my research there. So shout out to Code for releasing that Google Forms because we all definitely came to the same conclusion when we didn't really like this, you know, combined booster sets and the accelerated schedule. So a huge shout out to Code. And also a huge shout out to all the Shadowverse Evolve content creators out there that were making content and voicing their opinions. It managed to break through, so I'm glad everybody had a voice. Thank you for voicing your concern. I hope they watched my video. They probably didn't because mine was kind of tucked into a, you know, World's Finals highlight, which is just a little section of how I felt about it. But, you know, I was running off of fumes talking about that since World's Finals went until 5 in the morning. Yes, I'm still gonna complain about that because I stayed up till 5 and watched the whole thing. But not ending off on a negative note, I'm very excited to see what they're going to be doing for Shadowverse Evolve. Very excited to see more players. Hopefully I can go to some events here. I hope for Summerfest, which I hope these decks are going to come out pretty soon because I will be doing a review of those decks. But hopefully I can go to one of these Bushy-Road Summerfest and see a couple of subscribers and stuff like that. I'm very excited for all of that. But alright soldiers, that is the end of the video. I appreciate all of you for watching all the way through. It means a lot to me that you watch the content after this little break. I love all of you. Make sure you are safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do.